So hello everybody. The time is 2 o'clock, so we have to start immediately. Additional obligation after that, so I think it's very important that we are staying in the time frame. So hello everybody. I would like just to hello you in the name of University of Ljubljana and say hello to our guests who will lead this section. This is Professor Lela Melon and Professor Andrei Gubina. They will lead you through this section, and I hope that we will have 2 really good hours here. A lot of discussion, a lot of fruitful ideas, and at the end we will be happy and with new ideas. I hope so. So, Lela, please, I will give you the mic now.
Thank you very much. Živjo, jaz sem drugače iz Ljubljane, za vse tiste, ki ste tukaj. Se ne vidi po priimku. But I'll do this presentation, of course, in English, because we're from all 10 universities of EUTOPIA. It's a real pleasure being here. So today, with Joanna Wagner, who is also working on transforming the education, higher education towards sustainability, we're going to have a short session of how we are trying to do this. So I know that probably not one person here of you actually knows that inside EUTOPIA, there is a program called EUTOPIA. Who knew that? Hands up. I am so proud. Because I had a feeling that what we're doing is internal sessions without anybody being aware of it, aside from those 10 people who are discussing it. So I'm just trying to present today how did the idea come about, what we're trying to achieve with that, and how does the program look like. And that's our back door to insert sustainability and inclusion in traditional curricula. And then we're going to have a more front door from the side of Joanna, who is also trying to help universities to kind of reach the point of transition towards something that's called sustainable. For us to start, actually, I would like you to do something with me. Do you all have your mobile phones with you? Of course we do. What kind of a question is that? Can you scan this or go on the web page and just put the code in? I would be really grateful if we can do that. Once we all have it, or the ones who want to participate, we're going to have a few questions. Just to start off the session so I see where we're at. Okay. And this is the only time you need to click on this or scan this, so later is just answering. This is the longest part. Okay. How are we doing? Is it going well? Because I have just 6 people right now and 7. Woo! Slowly. 9. Good, good. Everybody who is with us on Zoom can do the same thing, of course, so please do join. Huh? This is not an exercise just for us here in person in Ljubljana. Yes, go for it. Don't worry. Yep. I can see some people still being with their phones up. Yeah. 17. Let's give it 10 seconds more and then we start. Because you're still going to have to answer after this. So this was step 1. We still have 3 more. Okay. Yeah, can we start? Okay. Can I ask you, how many classes on sustainability have you had or you have in your undergraduate and graduate programs? How many courses, classes actually deals with sustainability at your institution? But for real, not having one topic out of 22 that touches something upon climate change. A real sustainability class. Yeah. You have no idea how my heart hurts right now. But this has been the answer for the last 5 years, actually. The one who said all, I want to hear it now. And I want to hear the formula of your success. Somebody said 850. I would like to see that. I want to know to the institution, because I'm moving then. What I wanted to do with this, with asking you this question, is also this point. Even when we do a transformational move towards something more sustainable, a lot of times the information inside the institution gets lost. And we're dealing a lot with that at the Pompeu Fabra University. We had a lot of people independently working on topics related to sustainability, changing their courses, and we had no idea who was working on what until we created a center on planetary well-being, and those people started working together. So even if we do have the transformation, the information is kind of lost. Okay, second question. What do you find or you think would be the biggest challenge in the transformation of higher education curricula towards sustainability? Encompassing inclusion, encompassing diversity, which is social sustainability, but also environmental sustainability. From the side of economics, because I have a law and economics background, sorry I didn't explain that. From the side of economics, we have big issues with microeconomics, how to incorporate the notion of sustainability in not infinite resources, obviously. We have problems at the legal side, where up until recently they said corporate governance has nothing to do with sustainability. So what's the biggest challenge? If you think about it, and if you have dealt with it, one word, two, something that you see very difficult in your institution for incorporating sustainability. Yeah, the funding is a problem everywhere, not just in sustainability. The funding is a challenge. Existing structures, lack of resources, faculty acceptance, also true, rigidity of the system. Top-down perspective, urgency makes us paralyzed. That's also true. The notion of we have to change everything right now with the embedded structures that don't want to change makes us paralyzed. We just don't do anything because it needs to be done now and everything, and we stop. All of that we have noted already at the UPF, at the Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona, and we knew something needed to be done. But we didn't know how to approach it in a sense that we would have external partners from which we're learning, and they're learning from us neither. So we started thinking in those terms, how to make sure that we're not doing it alone in our own framework, but with people who are also facing the exactly same challenges we are. Okay. We have been inside the EUTOPIA now for 3 years. Yeah? Did it bring to the table any kind of sustainability topic for you? Did it change anything for you? You being in an alliance of 6, but now also 10 universities in our new stage, did that change anything in terms of incorporating sustainability in your curricula? Yes, no, no idea. No idea are usually the possibilities. We have 3 yeses, we have 7 no's for now, and 12 not sure. Again, what we're dealing with is this uncertainty of moving around the information and using what we've learned. Of course, we're learning things, but we don't know how to proportion them and where they're coming from, and who to credit, basically, for those changes. And the last one, and then I stop torturing you. According to your empiric experience, what is the proportion of sustainability enthusiasts in your institution? How many people, professors, assistants, do you know that are very passionate about sustainability and trying to make you also passionate about sustainability? Is it a lot in your faculty? Is it little? The numbers are quite nice, though. Yeah, things are changing. It usually was that one crazy green person. I was that in my department. Okay, the numbers are not very low. They used to be lower, actually. I understand the resistance to change that is internal too, but I also understand the lack of information and the lack of knowledge on the changes that are coming in terms of knowledge. By way of example, if I use my field of expertise, which is law, I am dealing with corporate lawyers because I'm from corporate law, which until 4 years ago kept on saying that corporate governance has nothing to do with sustainability, corporate governance shouldn't have anything to do with sustainability, corporate reporting shouldn't have anything to do with sustainability, and they were very passionate in claiming that until the European Commission said, Well, yes, it has. So here you have sustainability reporting, and here you have sustainable corporate governance. There is resistance also in terms of academia and in terms of faculty. Okay, so just give me a second. How did we approach the matter? Understanding that basically what we're dealing with is exactly that resistance. I'm going to go fastly through those things just to put some notions on the table, and then we can discuss also in private later. What's the challenge basically in academia regarding sustainability? What is the approach? What were the developments under EUTOPIA? What are the next steps that we're trying to take? What are the general trends? And information for keeping in touch. Okay? I'm going to try to do this as painless as possible. So what is the challenge actually at the end of the day? Thinking outside of the box is a lot of times the challenge, which shouldn't be, because academia is supposed to be about that, right? We saw the opportunity in EUTOPIA as a framework that allows for innovation in the existing structures. International cooperation, yes, but innovation. So we said, okay, fine. We understand that the Erasmus program works now in terms of internationalization, but has not spurred many changes in terms of sustainability as the paradigm to be inserted in traditional curricula, no matter the field of knowledge. So we started speaking about sustainability, but people didn't connect across EUTOPIA to create sustainability projects, okay, with exceptions. So the discussion that's been on the table, not just in the framework of EUTOPIA, but in general, higher education in Europe, specifically in Europe, has been, what is the actual social responsibility of universities right now? What are we dealing with? Well, first, climate emergency. And we saw the notion of urgency when we were doing the World Cloud. Second, inequality and inclusion. Ever-growing topic, actually, not diminishing. And the third one, active teaching methods. To stop ex-cathedra teaching, and to start teaching more actively and involved with the students because they ask for it, and we understand why. The world has changed. Okay, we also have the credit system and national systems as an impediment. What do I mean by that? ECTC framework, yes, it allows us to recognize the credits from one institution to another, but what the problem of ECTS is, you cannot change traditional curricula that easily inside one of the system, which makes it difficult for sustainability. But is there scope for improvement and timely movement in the right direction? We said, okay, yeah, if you use the EUTOPIA network, things are maybe easier. So how did we approach this? What was our approach? Well, we said, okay, we need to close the sustainability skills gap. We noted the specifically heightened pressure on business schools to reform the way they're approaching teaching of management and defining management and what management is. Students came usually to learn theories, to understand how they were supposed to organize their manner of thinking, and they left. For sustainability, that's not a possibility anymore. There are so many things that need to be embedded in how students learn and how students convey their knowledge. It's a different world. So what I allowed myself to use is the recent report of the Microsoft and Boston Consulting Group where they are talking about the skills, and it's titled Closing the Sustainability Skills Gap, Helping Businesses to Move from Pledges to Progress. And they're talking straight about that you need to understand that sustainability is a horizontal way of thinking, not vertical by fields of knowledge. If you're embedding sustainability in your organization, you need to understand the functioning of the whole organization, create a strategy that is basically horizontal and transversal, and then implement it according to the traditional knowledge, which is completely different than we did before. What is super important in terms of sustainability skills that you need to put is understanding different cultures, understanding that challenges in terms of sustainability are very different in terms of geography, in terms of also societies and the underlying culture, and you cannot just apply one-size-fits-all solution. So it's systems thinking, it's circular thinking, it's design thinking that our students, sorry to say, under the traditional framework simply don't have. But if you don't have the strength and you don't have the power and you don't have the resources to just scrap it all and start from zero, what do? Well, we thought about using the frameworks that we have and say, fine, we are cooperating and we do have the Erasmus exchanges, but what we're trying to do is implement more active methods of teaching while cooperating one with another in terms of institutions, and go beyond the walls of university teaching. What do I mean, more active learning? Simply, stop being teacher-centered. Start understanding that if you're in front of students and they don't get something, and every professor in this room understands that we know the exact moment when the students have no idea what we just said. Because the faces say it all. They're doing this, but their eyes are no idea. When you see that, you turn it around, you turn the knowledge around, you talk to them, and the groups usually repeat the parts that they don't understand. You create a game for them to engage. We want multi-way transfer of knowledge that is interactive and engaging and conceptual and practical. But how can we do that? How can we do that? We focus on inequality and inclusion, for instance, in the sense of going beyond EU borders and live student experiences. And I'm going to explain to you right now how the EUTOPIA program actually approaches it like that. So, what we did in EUTOPIA is we gathered these 6 institutions. So, University of Ljubljana obviously is a part of it, the Faculty of Economics, okay? We also have STUPF, where I come from, which is the Business School of Pompeu Fabra. Then we have Università Ca' Foscari from Venezia, the ESSEC Business School, the Cergy Paris, and from Romania we have the Babes Bolyai, and then in South Africa, one institution is working with us to make sure that the students have international experience, because we're sending them there. Okay, what we're trying to do, create a certification that's next to your degree. This is not new. This doesn't substitute your degree. What do? We ask the students to go 1 year abroad at one of the partner institutions, to do at least 2 collective projects, to do 2 summer schools, and to take 3 common online courses on sustainability. What we're trying to do is gather the teachers from all the universities to give out knowledge that we need to be given out in different settings. So, for instance, the students from all 6 universities have teachers from all 6 universities across with the courses, and having a year abroad experiencing in person a different way of learning and a different way of teaching. What is it? It's an educational program of EUTOPIA. 3-year one in English, focused on planetary well-being, but also tackling European challenges. It's designed to complement and enrich existing degrees, a certification that's additional. Are we forcing students to do even something more that they're doing already right now and they don't want it? And one question, do you think, and this is just on the top of my head, that there is interest for this from the side of the students? Because this is new, it's been just recently communicated to the students. Did we have a lot of interest for it or not? And it's not a new degree, it doesn't give you additional credits, it's nothing new. But it's all new. Do you think the interest was high or not? Very high. We had 0 information, almost 1 information session at the STUPF, and we have 45 applications for 10 spots. But it was 0 information, really 1 very brief session somewhere, and you know it gets lost in a university. People are super interested. Why? Because they need it. They need the experience, they need the sustainability topics, and we're not offering it outside of these singular projects. Okay. So, important part, once again, it's a project. All existing degrees are preserved. If each institution offers to their own students to be able to participate in EUTOPIA, and some of them are finally selected. So it's a selection process similar to the Erasmus scheme, but different still. Because the selection is based on not just success in your program, but also on the language. Okay, because language skills obviously are needed if you're moving around Europe and beyond. There is mutual recognition now between the partners inside of EUTOPIA of the ECTEs awarded by the partner institutions. And the requirement is, once you are selected, you do need to participate on online courses, online projects, and in summer schools. Which is not easy because we come back to inclusion right now. What do I mean by that? If I'm trying to send you to South Africa for an exchange, you need to be able to finance that. So that's one of the parts that we also focused on, that we are not, again, blind and saying it's fine. We understand it's a big financial issue for quite some students, specifically speaking about Barcelona. And we're trying to find solutions to actually help them, that they can carry out those obligations. Because right now, that's not financed from the side of EUTOPIA, because it can't be. And the program will start in January 2023. We're very ambitious, and September passed us by like nothing, so we're starting in January with the first course on sustainability. And we're actually co-creating that course, not just me as a Slovene, but Ladea Godina-Košir, one of the leading authorities in European Union on circular economy, is co-creating the course with me. So we have also outside of university cooperation to get the knowledge on sustainability in from the professionals who have been in the field for the last 20 years, which is super important, because us as academia, we're lagging a bit behind, a little bit, okay? Okay, so just this scheme, basically, how does it look like? What do we start? The first year is completely focused on planetary well-being. If you want to see what planetary well-being means, please go to the UPF webpage. It's a whole concept that we developed, an institutional framework, and thank God we're progressing. But it's a concept of how to keep the planet well enough so that it doesn't eliminate us as humanity, and how to keep humanity well enough in terms of social sustainability, okay? Then you have the online course of sustainability that I just mentioned to you, and we're going to do a summer school here in Ljubljana. That's the first year, for all the students that are involved in EUTOPIA, okay? In the second year, there's another online course that is focused on European challenges of today, real life problems. Then we have an online project where students are working together in groups, the students that are selected from diverse universities. Then in the year 3, we're closing up. What we're trying to do is offer local application and global perspective on the challenges we have seen. We do 2 alternatives, either online course 3, if you wish, or then summer school in Morocco. And we have another online project when students are working together through this year, okay? It's a lot of work in a way, but it gets students really immersed in what the challenge of today is. And to finish this off, not being too long, I love this quote, because it's absolutely true. If you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, you need to go together. So what we figured out is we have a big challenge of add-ons in academia and sense of sustainability. We create one course that we call sustainable, we throw it somewhere at the end of curricula, and we call ourselves progressed. That we did ours. We didn't, because we don't understand what the challenge is. So we are really trying to focus away from add-ons. It's a great introduction to what the transformation and transition should be, but it's not the transition towards sustainability itself. We need to accept that this is a stage of learning by doing. This is a stage of when even sustainability professionals are constant students. Things are changing daily in terms of science, of understanding what's behind, of understanding systemic thinking. We're all students here, and my students laugh when I say that, but I swear it's true. I learn as they do, because you can't do it differently. So we need to understand that we need to loosen the grip right now of us being always right and understanding. We are learning as we're going. In terms of innovation, innovation won't happen in terms of sustainability necessarily in traditional frameworks. It really won't. What we need is new kind of partnerships that go beyond academia. We can learn from the private sector, and the private sector can learn from us. We were enclosed for too long. The example of this innovation is not just cooperation with what Joanna is going to explain to you later from a nonprofit organization from outside, but also that big consulting companies right now are searching for knowledge from academia, reaching out to professors who are working on sustainability because they need the knowledge. And that's new. It's been a while since that was happening. So we should embark on that path and actually understand that this is a great way to start a new way of doing things and more applied knowledge for our students too, which are hungry for that. And then, last but not least, to take advantage of the spillover of knowledge and exchange, reaching out to partners beyond the unknown and maybe inviting to events like this, also people from the private sector who are working on this, they also have their own sets of challenges and solutions, okay? Now, I hope I didn't bore you to death. There on the QR code, we're obsessed with QR codes today, you have 2 documents, one presenting you EUTOPIA and one presenting you La Belle Duc, which is going to be presented by Joanna right now, where you can reach a file that gives you all the crash course of short information that you need and links to longer information if you need them, okay? Please keep in touch, LinkedIn, Twitter, all my emails, personal webpage, whatever you need at any time. And it was a pleasure to spend this half an hour with you. Thank you.
And I would like to thank Lela who is a fellow professor. We are co-hosting a course on sustainable finance and law for hospitality managers. And that's one of the reasons that we have been collaborating for a while. And it's a real honor. And I totally agree with her when she says that we keep on learning and we are ourselves students when creating these new courses for programs that are expecting us to share new knowledge with our students. Today, actually, I'm talking from this perspective, which is that I'm a lecturer in sustainability in finance and hospitality. And I co-founded a company called Label Educ. So it's French, for those who speak French, and for the people from CY University around here, with Karina Hopper, a fellow lecturer as well, who is specialized in sustainable business and entrepreneurship. What happened is that in 2020, we both realized that sustainability was currently not taught in most of the schools where we were teaching. And we were both looking at that from a professional perspective because we were both working for traditional companies and we were seeing a shift in these companies and we were seeing that the new talents that were coming out of the schools were not prepared for the changes that we were witnessing in the companies. While we were still lecturing, we started implementing new types of teaching and also including more sustainability in our courses. But we felt that this was not enough, and that's when we came up with the idea of creating Label Educ to help higher education institutions in their own transition towards more sustainability in curricula. So this happened in 2020, and since then we've been working a lot with a lot of people and institutions on this way of supporting change in higher education institutions. Of course, we've been supported by reports and data being published on what our students are expecting from us, and new studies kept being published on this topic. And we feel that pressure as teachers, lecturers, and also as team members in higher education institutions. They are expecting change, right? So they want us to prepare them to being sustainable managers, being sustainable professionals. So that was that's the first data here. Then 79% of them state that it's important to them to live consistently with the goals of sustainability, and this is also something that we can bring them. And finally, 82% believe their future university has a critical role to play in teaching them sustainability. So this is their expectation from us. And of course, this is requiring a major shift in the way we are teaching and we are dealing with learning, teaching, sharing knowledge. So with Label Educ, we have this mission to support higher education staff and students to accelerate sustainability education and ensure that the students are being prepared to reconcile the sustainability stakes with the business requirements. So this is our mission, and that's what we've been working on for the almost last 3 years now, with passion and with a lot of energy. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the main activity that we have developed. So we've been through these questions already. So this, I took good note of the fact that some of you have 100% of their teams who are already sustainability enthusiasts. And I'm very jealous because this is not what I'm seeing in most of the institutions where I'm teaching or working or to whom I'm presenting the sustainability label. And our final diagnosis on this is that higher education is going through a major change. And like any change, it goes through what we call the grief process, or the grief curve. Have you ever heard about the grief curve? So I will call it the change curve rather than the grief curve, because it's difficult enough to talk about change and transition. Let's not talk about death. But the idea is that with Label Educ and with the Educ label, we want to help the teams that are already sustainability enthusiasts. We want to help program director, deans, and professors who are teaching sustainability to go through this curve. And that's why we have created a certification that is focused on sustainability integration in curricula. So our level, our scope is programs within higher education institutions, so a master's, a bachelor, a PhD, whatever the discipline is. And we are measuring how much sustainability is integrated throughout these programs by both the administrative team and faculty. And we're doing that thanks to about 120 questions, which are yes or no questions, and which are actually actions that can be taken by the program leaders. So basically what we're doing is that with the label, we are helping you, program director, program managers, dean, go through the shock phase of the curve, okay? Because for some professors, as was seen in the first question asked by Lela, very often faculty acceptance is the key barrier to change. So it's normal. They have a shock that we are asking them to change something that has been working for so long. Why change something that has been working? Because the environment has changed. Yes, yes. Yes. Of course. So we are offering, for instance, workshops and a space for discussions and questions among faculty to discuss the difficulties, the doubts, so that faculty will feel more comfortable going through the whole curve. And we are also offering an online network for all of our members, so schools that have that become member of Label Educ can access this platform where exchange can take place. At the stage of the denial, people, faculty, will actually need to be provided with evidence that change needs to happen. Hopefully, we are already through denial for most of them, but still, it's not the case everywhere. So they need evidence, and maybe they also need help to see that it has worked somewhere else. So sharing, like in EUTOPIA and ECOTOPIA, like you just did, is key in going through that phase. And again, Label Educ can help with this by promoting successful actions towards the members and institutions that are taking part in the certification. Then comes frustration, as you said before, but it takes time. And we need also to help them go through their cognitive dissonance, right? And decreasing the cognitive dissonance is also a hard task. But when we are leading an institution, we need to help people go through this. And with Label Educ and the Educ label, we are also helping, because very often what happens is that when people go through all of our criteria, they realize that they are already doing things. They are not starting from scratch. They don't need to change 100% of what they've been doing until now, only a part of it. And so frustration releases a little bit, and it goes better. After frustration comes depression, and that's the last phase before it gets better. And for depression, the key, of course, is to reassure the teams and faculty who are showing this, this state of low mood and lack of energy, energized by them. And here as well, we are providing with the Educ label a framework of clear action to go through, so that it gives that light at the end of the tunnel, that there are things that will lead us to that light at the end of the tunnel. And then comes the nicer part about the change curve. So first with experiment. Experimenting is hard for some, easier for others, and this requires, again, to team up and work outside of the silos that some of you mentioned earlier in the barrier to change. So cutting the silos, working together will help a lot with that. And similarly, with the Educ label, thanks to the picture that it gives of everything that has been done already, we can see who in the institution already went through a few of the actions. Did it work or not? Why? And it's possible to identify who is. Then comes the decision. So that's when people start actively being engaged in the change in a positive way, and that's what we're looking for, and that's when things will accelerate and when ideas will come to result, and we will be able to measure success. In that stage, basically, we want to empower team to take risk. You talked about experimenting and doing things that we haven't done until now. For people who are very risk-averse, which might be the character of some academia, again, it's frightening. And here, with Label Educ, we are trying to show that it's worth it, okay? And moreover, we are showing that thanks to the actual certification, we are reassuring people that it's not just their own efforts. They are not doing things on their own because they believe in sustainability. No, they are doing something because the whole institution is behind them. And if they leave, or if they or they go, on, for instance, on a gap year, this type of things will continue. So they will feel empowered to take that risk because it's worth it, because there will be a follow-up with the certification. And finally, integration. So that's when it becomes the new normal, basically. When you see that it was worth it, then all of your efforts led to something new that is actually desirable. And it's the time for university leaders, deans, and program directors to promote what has been done. And here again, getting certified with an external certification helps promoting, giving visibility and credibility with everything that has been done. So this is really what we are trying to do with Karina and with allies like Leila and other professors. For instance, like Mr. Abadza, who is from Zayed University and an active member in the PRIME network. Some of you might know about UN PRIME, which is a network of business schools which are committed to a responsible management practice. And for him, who is also part of a sustainability center like the Planet Wellbeing Center at UPF, he is pretty sure that it would help him support his colleagues who are currently reluctant to change, because they would see actually a way to go through this. It's not like this big mountain that they don't know how to climb, but there are clear steps to help. The certification process that we've put together with AFNOR. AFNOR is the French Normalization Association, so it's the representative body of France at ISO, for instance. They helped us create that strong and rigorous assessment process, from a free digital self-assessment to an application online, an independent third-party audit, then a committee reviewing the application and all of the answers, and finally, the label being awarded. The strength of this process is that our framework is 100, use it as a roadmap, and when they feel ready, they can decide whether or not they want to go through the actual application and the actual certification process. So that's really the aim. And the label is being awarded with a level, and that was also very important for us in the philosophy of creating this supportive tool, which is that you can start with 3 stars out of 5, and 2 years later get a 4-star and then one additional star. So that is not like you get it or you don't get it, you're passing or you're failing. No, you are on the road to integrating sustainability, and you show transparency, which is something which also becomes so important for students and other stakeholders of the higher education system. And why are we doing that? Because we want to accelerate education for sustainable development, as it's called by the United Nations. And for this, we are using the label because we think that it can really help, because it's then an obvious sign of commitment towards sustainability. And it will also help us create events like an EDUC conference to put together faculty and other members of the higher education system who want to show what they have found. We want also to partner for research on sustainability. We have ourselves published a literature review on the impact of sustainability education, for instance. These are the kind of things that we want to do with La Belle Éduque, with partner universities, and we are in touch with the main accreditation bodies, as well as with UNESCO and the EU, for instance, because we want this to be something that becomes recognized and that really, as I said throughout the whole presentation, is supportive of change and accelerating this change. So I would be very happy to be in touch with you, because we strongly believe at La Belle Éduque that higher education is actually the key to drive all of the other sustainable development goals, the famous SDGs. Because when educating people for sustainability, exactly that will put them on the right track for all of the other SDGs. So I thank you for your attention, and I will be very happy to be in touch or to answer your question if you have some. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody has gone? Beautiful. Let's go for it. Let's let me give you the mic, and I'm going to try to put the other one to action.
Thank you for the presentation. So my name is Karin, and I come from University of Gothenburg, which is not part of EUTOPIA yet. My question is about the labeling. So in our university, we just flicked through, and there is like a labeling of courses already in place, that some courses contain elements of sustainability. So how does your label, or this label, apply to other national labels, or where universities maybe already find that they have labels in place? How can this boost that? Is it complementary or the same?
Thank you for that question. So we are trying to make it complementary, that is already accredited nationally, can use their answers provided to their national accreditation as evidence for our own certification, and they don't have to go through another answer process, basically, and they can reuse these answers. So that would be the aim in the end, but the difference would be probably that the international accreditation, which is the EDUC label, will help drive visibility for students abroad, for instance, and will allow also for comparison between a German program with a Dutch program and a French program in finance, for instance.
Inserting sustainability to actually create solutions. So it's my pain for the last 6 years, this problem. Take EUTOPIA, if you wish, as a pilot program for business schools. That doesn't mean EUTOPIA is just going to stay at business schools. For right now, business schools wanted to be the ones of trying to push forward the agenda of sustainability, understanding how we can implement it. So EUTOPIA per se, in this first year at least, is focused just on business schools and on management, because it's focused on those schools, not on universities per se as whole. I hope that other fields of knowledge are going to see it as something useful for inserting changes, and they're going to gather other universities. For instance, I don't know, the law faculty in UPF that is going to reach out to the law faculty in Ljubljana, that is going to reach out hopefully to the law faculty in Venice and say, hey, we have a problem on our hands because corporate governance right now includes sustainability. Should we do a program that allows us to develop faster, because we're exchanging experiences of how to teach in terms of corporate law and adjacent commercial law sustainability? But that is an impulse that has to come from the side of universities and particular faculties saying we are lacking knowledge. Could internationalization and additional program with additional certificate help us with that. But EUTOPIA was not created in the sense of becoming, I hope it will, don't get me wrong, in the sense of becoming the general model framework for every transformation. It is an attempt for faculties, specifically business schools, to do a step forward and say maybe this will go faster. Now, if that's a successful attempt, I would love to be here with you in a year or two and say, hey, you made it. Others are using the same model, but we don't know if that is going to happen. So we are purposefully limited on business schools because those were interested into doing a step forward. I hope it's going to happen with other institutions too. I hope that answers the question.
But just to add to this question, do you intend to bring in specialists also in your program, or
yes,
you'll just stay with general business?
Yes, of course.
People?
Yes, of course. We are already creating basically these online courses with this mentality of we don't know enough. Let's face it, where we don't know enough, we're getting people who develop the notions and methodologies to work with us. So that's why I also mentioned Ladea Godina Koshir, because that's exactly how that structure went. We said, we want circular economy, but I don't want to be teaching circular economy that I read in a textbook. I want to be teaching, I want for students to learn from the side of a person who has been there since the beginning and knows way beyond books. And we bring them in, which is also something that was usually not done in academia, maybe one lesson with a lecturer from somewhere else. But now we're trying to implement the knowledge that exists out there, and let's see how that goes. So yes, for sure. Thank you. Do we have any other questions so I can go a bit around with the mic? No doubts? Okay, here, and there. Okay.
No, it's just a comment, a follow-up on the previous question. I think I completely understand. It also makes a lot of sense to start a program like EUTOPIA with business schools and economists, because, I mean, the way we do business is very, goals are very short-time goals, fast profit, and so we want to start there. No, the question is, what is the result? Did you apply Educ label to EUTOPIA?
I haven't yet.
That's a great, actually, comment. I would love to do that, actually.
And what is the value? Is it very high?
No, actually, I'm going to be super selfish right now. I'm way more interested into applying Label Educ to the postgraduate program that I created in sustainability management, because that was my baby. So let's give it to my baby first and then the next one. No, I'm joking. No, we didn't yet, because the fact is, the first year we want to see if this truly creates a program that's focused on sustainability. Why? Because in the second year you saw, we're focusing on European challenges. Frankly, it's going to be focused on European challenges of that moment. So it means we go through the first year, we see in January 2024 where we're at. COVID showed us that we don't know where we're at and we don't know what's going to happen. So it might be a challenge that we didn't expect in a year. So it might turn out that, yes, sustainability transition is the European challenge of the moment. So then the whole program is sustainable. Or it might happen to us that we have another COVID situation, hopefully not, or something similar that we were expecting. And we're going to say, okay, there's another challenge, and maybe this is not completely sustainable. So that's why I can't answer to you if the certification is appropriate for that, because it might become a hybrid animal of, we have several diverse challenges in Europe that we're solving through that process. But yeah, I would rather have your certificate actually for my program.
So maybe we will have a disagreement here, because I hope that you will continue to include sustainability even if the priority change, because but
challenge of sustainability, then the whole program is super sustainable. Otherwise, it's going to be half on sustainability, half on another challenge. So
but really, the label is for any type of program, and especially for programs which have no sustainability mentioned anywhere, obvious, but where it's really integrated throughout. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will help. So we had one here.
Maybe not such a, I will ask, whatever. When we talk about sustainability, can you tell me what you put in that? Like, we don't talk just about ecology, probably. We talk also about what? Because we're talking here about structures and about changes, but like...
Is that the question for me or for Joanna? Because the answer is different. For both?
It can be also for both.
in terms of sustainability definition inside of our program, in terms of EUTOPIA and in EUTOPIA, we reached an agreement that we're going to take the definition of planetary well-being as sustainability. We use the word sustainability because people are usually more familiar with it in terms of environmental sustainability and then the social part of sustainability from inclusion and stuff, and it makes my life more easy. But inside of EUTOPIA, what we're talking about is planetary well-being, understanding that we're trying to reach sustainability in environmental sense and changes of our production and consumption patterns and the way they spread around university programs, but also social sustainability, not just in terms of diversity and inclusion, but treatment of people, personal well-being, etc. So those topics are going to be part of the same course. The fact is that the more you deal, with economics and with business, the more you're going to be focused right now on environment, which surprises me. But the fact is that environmental sustainability started being a legal requirement. Well, let me rephrase myself. Will be a legal requirement for 2024 on, to be very specific as a lawyer. But it's legally required right now for companies to not just have sustainability strategies, but also to do reporting. So the focus right now is basically what those legal documents require you to do with your strategy to give particular skills to students when they leave our program or they leave our certification, that they're ready for the new jungle that's out there, because it's a new jungle that's out there. So we're trying to focus in terms of, yes, we are social and environmental sustainability, but frankly, in the time frame that we have and in the hours that we have, focusing on what is legally required. Yeah, maybe to Joanna also to comment.
I think we are also we are aligned there because we are focusing both on social and environmental aspect of sustainability, and we are doing it at the level of the program contents, the activities, and also the way the whole student journey is being delivered. For instance, is inclusion taken into account at the time of the student selection? So we also think about this, and also things about like how are decisions being made in terms of stakeholder inclusion and integration. So we have both sides of sustainability integrated as well.
Thank you. I hope I answered your question, by the way. Did I, more or less? But inside the working, that's very important for me, so that Zoom people hear me. Inside the working group, how is it defined is according with the definition of planetary well-being in the paper that we issued. Okay, so that is really a focus, but the focus in there is truly half environmental, social.
I just wanted to say, because many times when we talk about sustainability, many people just think about ecology. Like yes. It goes, like it's first association, but we know that it's broader than that.
Yes, but even if we would just focus on ecology, even that doesn't have one definition. And then it doesn't include circularity, and then it doesn't include that. It goes forever.
Is it on? Okay. Hi, I'm Anais from UPF, so nice to meet you. We haven't met before.
Nice to meet you in Slovenia instead of at home. Hi, Anais.
Now, I have a question not regarding sustainability, but regarding this challenge-based program that you set, because I'm a little bit concerned that maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but as BP4 lead that we used to be, we did some very similar things. So I'm concerned that we are overlapping or doubling everything that we are doing. And since it's difficult, because we were talking about this morning on BP4 and the next BP4, it's so difficult to engage students that maybe if we are doubling or overlapping, then aren't we hurting ourselves? So that I think that maybe we should talk more.
Yeah, no, like I told you, we started with the fact that the exchange of information, a timely one and an organized one in this times of transition is the worst, one of the worst impediments, and I started the lesson with that inside the institution. We had our share of headaches in planetary well-being with that because we absolutely didn't know where we're at. So right now I'm going to ask you back a question so that I can answer. What is the point of PP4? Because now you know what EUTOPIA is, but I have no idea from your side what was in PP4.
Do you want me to explain it right now?
Just shortly. How are we overlapping? Because if I don't know it, then I can't comment where the overlap is.
Yeah, okay. So former BP4, which is going to be in EUTOPIA more, it's going to be 4.2, sub-working package 4.2.
Okay.
It was about placemaking and how the universities relate to their environment, say the cities, say the countries, say the region. So we already agreed that for each of us, place means something different. But the way we approached it was about, through this challenge-based program that we set, which COVID didn't allow us to do it as we planned. But still, what we were supposed to do is like to observe which are the challenges at the European level, and how to, and we would have students solve them. Not only focused on sustainability, but of course sustainability comes like very fast.
Now I can answer. Now I can answer. 10 people, 10 students right now from each university flowing around. Students have the luxury or the free choice and will which of the programs suit them better. I actually like the fact that we have more approaches like that. So when the students are choosing, they're basically with their choice telling us what suits them right now in creation of the skills that they need. So it's not necessarily overlapping. Specifically, if we're talking about our university, the UPF is sufficiently large and the amount of students we have is very big. So if I'm talking the fact that ISTE is going to send 10 people in the first pilot phase around, that is 0. But if you see that those 10 people create a word of mouth, that all of a sudden I have 100 students applying next year, which I presume is going to happen, then we see a clear signal that something is good in that program. Or conversely, in your working package, all of a sudden you have the amount of students interested in that extremely high. It's a clear signal to us as educators that we're doing something well in that one. And the more things like that coexist in short term, the clearer signal for us where should we go. So I don't think that overlapping is a problem, unless it would be mandatory for every student in the Utopia, 3 programs different like that. That would be a problem. But here it's a choice, and I think it's good. I hope I'd answered. Yeah? I'll come on with it. Any other questions? Because I think we're going to have to put the word now to the next group. We have another one, yes? Okay, here you go, and I'll go for the other mic.
Thank you. My name is Hans from the University of Gothenburg. Maybe a bit of also an impertinent question, maybe adding a bit to the colleague from UPF. I mean, there are so many different sort of concepts in the Utopia sort of framework. I was just interested in, we have these learning communities and learning units, of course. And as I understand it, you are not one of those learning communities or learning units. You have chosen a different kind of path to work within. This is not saying that it's a wrong path, it's just a different path. But why haven't you sort of aligned with the learning community thought in the sort of scheme of things in Utopia?
Was that a question as to why the Ecotopia didn't do so, or me? Because those are 2 different answers.
No, I just wanted to know if, no, the Ecotopia, why isn't, it could be, I guess, a learning community also within the other 30 learning communities that are, or are you connected to the learning communities also?
Well, we are, because we're basically either the leaders, either members of other learning communities and research communities and Young Leaders Academy. So people are having different hats that are cooperating with this program. But the decision not to be a learning community, Ecotopia as such, was a strategic one so that program could grow independent and become an independent certification if it's successful. The learning community, it's kind of, Ecotopia is the outcome of the learning community. So if you're going to go to that fabulous QR that I sent you, when you open the doc of Ecotopia, it says learning community success. So it's a culmination of a few learning communities, what we learn, and how they want to kind of give it a separate life. So it's not true that they're not connected. It is just a step beyond, and now they're trying to give it a new life that's independent and trying to basically wait and see what kind of program can it be. Can it be really an independent program that has its own ECTS at the end after the pilot? So I hope that answers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we really have to leave because we're getting kicked out, and rightfully so. Thank you very much for this time, and please keep in contact.
With the second part, it's going to be session. So my name is Andrei Gubina. I come from University of Ljubljana and the Institute of Innovation and Development of University of Ljubljana. And it's my great pleasure here to be able to invite you to listen to my two colleagues. First, we're going to hear about people-centered development approach and the transfer of methodology from the Activate Planet, the project, and this is going to be presented by colleagues to the stage and to present their experience. And Gregor, the floor is yours, and Sarah is coming afterwards, and then we have room for questions and discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andrei, for this introduction. Also, thank you very much to our previous speakers. It was very interesting. So I think now we will provide a kind of continuous track or try to add on what was said before from maybe a different perspective. My name is Gregor Cirinšek, and I'm here with my colleague Dr. Sara Arko and Professor Andrei Gubina, and we are representative of the Institute for Innovation and Development of the University of Ljubljana, which is a sort of intermediary organization, technology transfer office between the University of Ljubljana, its faculties, and broader societal environment, industry, NGOs, and country itself. So we have a sort of a different role as faculties and other education institutions and colleges. Yeah, I will try to speak about the people-centered development perspective that we aim to involve in our research and development projects and also educational projects that we are involved. So with the but with the Horizon Europe, so in the past, let's say, 2, 3, 4 years that this has been developed, the whole idea about Horizon Europe, we can see that there's a huge attention being paid to the so-called people-centric component. For instance, this is from one call from the Build for People, where they request projects to address the so-called people-centric sustainable built environment. And I will not read the whole part of it, but it's just that they say that the solutions should focus and should enhance the so-called user-centric behavioral change here in the construction built environment, but we can also speak about people-centered mobility, people-centered building, energy-efficient buildings, and so on and so on. So the so-called people-centered development component. And because we work in very interdisciplinary teams. So for instance, myself, I'm a sociologist just finalizing my PhD in anthropology. Sara is anthropologist. Professor Gubina is electrical engineer, and we work with, especially with mechanical and electrical engineers. And when we put together this kind of projects with, of course, international consortium, there's always like a question, but how can we assure or get to the so-called user-centric behavioral change as in the call, or to the people-centered urban mobility as in the topic of my speech? So we had a lot of discussions around it, and our answer is always like, involve social scientists and humanities in technical and engineering projects. And this is what we are actually trying to do with the so-called 4 steps of the people-centered development. And the idea behind it is quite easy, and I will try to really explain it in the simple terms. So we have 4 steps. First is the identification of our target groups. So it means, who are we solving for and with? The second step is the analysis. It states here, what do people want? Even though, Sarah, I think we have to change this slide. I don't like it too much. So it's not just about what people want. It's what are their requirements? What are their existing habits? What are their existing behaviors? What do people value when it comes to, for instance, mobility in the city of Ljubljana? Yeah? This is the questions that we are posing ourselves. The third step is the interpretation. What and how will we create to serve their needs, which were identified in step 1 and step 2. And the fourth is testing. Why does it matter to the people? And here I would like to expose that the qualitative research is the one that we aim to bring into technical engineering kind of research and development projects that are favored by Horizon Europe before Horizon 2020 and also other calls for mainly technical projects. Yeah? How it's being done in conventional way, so I would say like in 95% of development teams, that we forget about the first and the second step, and we start with the third step. So we put ourselves in teams of experts, normally very monodisciplinary experts, and we brainstorm about what are the needs of the people, yeah? And we come up with the idea, with a solution, and we invest millions of euros in the product, and we finalize with the testing. And in the fourth step is where we involve actual people, yeah? When we already invest millions of euros and we already have a product or solution. And these 4 steps, it's when we start thinking about, wow, maybe we need social scientists so that they will help to sell our products better, because we don't have this kind of knowledge, for instance, or skills. So we engage them in sales and marketing. If we do some post-festum testing, it's mainly based on quantitative research, and we get the answers on questions, or we get the answers that we somehow imagine we want to get. And we develop questions also in that kind of way, yeah? So also the answers that we get with this kind of questionnaires are not so, how to say, reliable. So once again, we think from our practice that this kind of development process is especially not appropriate when we try to solve the complex sustainability challenges of today's world, yes, as we were talking also before. So we mainly forget about step 1 and step 2, and this is something which we want to bring also in our research and development projects. How do we do that? On this photo, we can see Bronislaw Malinowski. This was taken around 100 years ago, I think, when he was studying people in Trobriand Islands in the Pacific. So he's one of the founders, or he is a founder of the, let's say, how do we say it, modern anthropology, yeah? Anthropology is about comparative study of people in different societies or contexts in order to understand what they do, want, need. And the ethnography is methodology that anthropologists use. So it's about studying the behavior, habits, and practices of people in different cultures and so on, yeah? What I would like to expose here is that the methodology is more or less the same as it was 100 years ago, but the application of the methodology has changed, because nowadays anthropologists also study contemporary challenges of our world. And this is what we try to somehow preach about. And also to mention, we are not saying that there's the quantitative methodologies are somehow that they are not useful, yeah? No, of course they are, but there's the combination that we try to always enhance. So the so-called big data that we get with quantitative methodology is about what, where, when, sometimes also about how, but what we are interested in is the answer on the question why. So why, for instance, this particular person wakes up every day at 4 o'clock in the morning and walks 1 hour to the first cafe, which is in a different village, to read his newspaper, to get his cup of coffee, although he has troubles walking, yeah? So these are the questions that we are interested in. But of course, when we explain this to especially more technical people, engineers, this is normally the face that we get, yeah? And the usual suspects are how? Your sample is just too small. How can you just study 10 people, yeah? You should have like thousands of people. It's statistically insignificant. It takes just too much time, you know, to observe people in their regular environments, or maybe even to live with those people, yeah? And it's impossible to provide useful development guidelines. But on the other hand side, and this I can prove with also in our team, when they become our biggest ambassadors. And it's also good because engineers will normally listen to other engineers. And when engineers preach about your methodology, which is, you know, based on anthropology, you get more like attention. Yeah. So I'm very proud of, for instance, my colleague Jure, which is over there, and also another person who was with us in different Horizon 2020 project when they really tested the methodology that we are trying to implement. Now I was speaking about Horizon projects, but we also try to enhance the methodology or to put it in educational projects. So this was, for instance, Project People. I wanted to show you a nice animation, but the sound system is not working, so I will just explain very briefly. So we try to involve students working on real-life sustainability challenges in real-life environments, so connecting them with industry, with society, with NGOs, to work in teams, supervised by their teachers, by their mentors, also from industry or from broader environment. Yeah, as said, they work on concrete sustainability projects. This project is already finished, but the continuation of it is the so-called Activate Planet, when we're trying to focus even more on sustainability challenges. Everything is around the UN Sustainable Goals. Also, the framing of the challenge is done in teams, so it's not just that, you know, for instance, an industry representative comes and says, look, this is our problem, please work on it, and then come back with the solution. No, it's about joint work also from the very beginning, also from the 4 steps of the people-centered development that I have mentioned in my previous slides. So they are all or are equal collaborators in all those 4 steps. We are partnering with different universities and also with different companies. Also Volvo, Swedish Volvo is involved, as I think lady said that she's from Gothenburg, yeah, so she's probably familiar with it, or did I misunderstand? Okay. And this is the actual case that we have. We are partnering with a company Endava, and those who are from Ljubljana are probably familiar with the so-called Avant2Go cars. It's about sharing, car sharing company, yeah? And when we started, the company had like a clear idea that they would like to, for instance, improve the user experience, improve the application they have, yeah? But we as anthropologists, we don't just follow this kind of approach. We said, no, we have to go back. We have to really study different basic fundamental questions that are behind it, yeah? So, as I said before, the 4th step of the people-centered development. And these were actually the questions that we are still dealing with. So, what are the motivational factors for choosing mobility options in Ljubljana, for instance? What's the importance, meaning of a car, actually owning a car, yeah? And about car sharing or shared mobility in general, how do people imagine car sharing, shared mobility, and how do they understand it, yeah? What are the main motivations and frustrations to not opt for car sharing services, yeah? So we want to emphasize that there are certain questions that come before the actual app for car sharing. And then this happens also when we try to copy-paste different good practices from other cities, yeah? And we don't pay enough attention to contextualize it to our local requirements. Yeah. So this was methodology in action. We found certain key takeaways, insights from it, which I will not go into detail right now, and the project is still ongoing. But maybe just to end, the main thing. Oh, sorry. The main thing about it is that now also company developers that were behind the development of actual app understand that there are certain questions that they need to be answered before you go in the actual development of your imagined solution. In this, for instance, particular example, car sharing mobility application. Yeah. And as said before, because of the research that we have done, there were some additional paths that were that became clear, which also made possibilities for different startups to grow, which are not directly related to car sharing service, but because certain fundamental questions were answered, you know, the different possibilities of future solutions also became possible. And we are working on them right at that moment. So this is still an ongoing project, and we think that the results will be quite important, but also the education that is happening. So students being directly involved in that process, anthropology students, are something which I'm actually very proud of myself. And now I will hand it over to Sara, and we can have some questions and answers at the end. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you, Gregor. So we started with an overview of the methodology that we use to tackle different sustainability challenges. And you had a glimpse into how an extracurricular learning intervention might look like. But I will dive deeper into one of our other projects where we integrated this learning and teaching approach into an existing study program. Oh, yes, thank you. Sorry, I didn't do that for you. A bit of background for this project. It's called Urban Goodcamp. It's funded by the Erasmus Plus program. And it focuses on cities. Why cities? Because over 70% of European population lives in cities. And urban environments are also where the environmental as well as social challenges are more concentrated. And they range from mobility, which was already mentioned, to biodiversity, to air quality, and tourism over population. So they are different. Like we were discussing before, it's not just environment, but it's also the social environment that's closely connected with sustainability. And these are actually images from the 6 cities that are participating in the Urban Goodcamp project. Move on. So sustainable urban development approach can only be achieved with an integrated approach. And European cities do have multiple challenges, but are often not systematically approached to be addressed. And on the other hand side, higher education institutions, their engagement with urban stakeholders is sporadic or, how would I say, scattered. It's not systematic either. And they often lack the relevant strategies, the tools, the resources to systematically integrate it into their curricula. So what this project is trying to achieve is to tackle these pressing urban challenges, to engage with the urban communities of practice, and to develop and implement multidisciplinary learning interventions. This is just an overview of the project. We can skip that. And the program that we have developed and are currently implementing in those 5 cities has these few basic tenets. So we started by identifying the urban stakeholders and the urban challenges. We designed the learning program, and we are currently implementing it. And these same urban stakeholders are cooperating as co-designers, as challenge owners, and as mentors in the program. And in the end, we're hoping to achieve urban communities of practice that will continue with similar or other projects. In Ljubljana, we started with horizon scanning. We created scan cards where we identified the different sustainability issues that pop up in the city of Ljubljana. We also did interviews with some of key stakeholders, including researchers, and we organized a consultation event where we brought together some of these stakeholders to discuss what could we identify as the most relevant challenges in Ljubljana. As we were focusing on mobility, we came up finally with two key challenges. So how to support car-free or care-free urban living, and how to tackle the influx of daily migrants. I don't know if you're all aware, but Ljubljana faces an influx of approximately 50,000 daily migrants each day, coming in and going out of the city for work, education, and other purposes, while the infrastructure doesn't sufficiently support this. So these were the two questions that we decided to focus on in our program. Yes. So the three key stages in the program are a 5-day boot camp, 2 innovation tours, and a 2-day minicamp. So this program is delivered at the Department of Ethnology and Cultural Anthropology of the Faculty of Arts of University of Ljubljana, and it's integrated into the study curriculum. It lasts for 1 semester in these short, intensive bouts of working together in teams. I'll dive quickly into each of these pillars. So the 5-day boot camp is comprised of master classes, workshops, and field research. And these master classes were not just delivered by the faculty that teaches at the department, but we had guest lecturers, and we involved the urban stakeholders that we were already in contact with to act as mentors for the students. In this way, we tried to support the interdisciplinarity of the whole approach and to bring together cross-sectoral cooperation. Workshops were oriented towards helping the students to design their own specific research questions, to design a research plan, and how to approach the analysis of their research results. They had 2 days where they went out into the city in pairs, and they conducted qualitative field research. Yes. Then the 2 innovation tours are even more directly connected to the urban stakeholders. We have 2 days where we are visiting the stakeholders that we have identified are most relevant to urban mobility, and we have visited the city of Ljubljana, so the municipality, a public transportation company, a private company that offers shared bikes. We discussed with the cycling mayor of Ljubljana, and we'll have a mobility challenge this week where we'll ask the students to get from point A to point B with different transportation modes, and we'll see who wins that. So what we're trying to do is to offer the students an insight into how private companies, so they have their own desk research and so forth. I analyze their, and we will here we will also engage the work at institution. They can see quite relieved that they can step up from the ex-cathedra teaching and kind of get involved with the students in a different way. So I'm aware that these are project-based activities, and projects are finite, so they will end. And so the biggest question is now how to make this sustainable initiative within university programs. And from what I heard from the previous presenters, there's a lot of initiative that this might actually happen. So that's it. Yeah.
Maybe just to conclude or recap, I think there are four main dimensions that we try to speak about. One is the interdisciplinary collaboration, which means that we try to connect students, researchers, but not connecting electrical engineers with mechanical engineers. No, connecting electrical engineers with anthropologists, with philosophers, with actors, with architects, with biologists, and so on. So that's the first dimension. The second is working on real-life sustainability challenges of our society, also of the industry actors that are involved. The third one, maybe three, is the people, and the third one is the people-centered development. And here is where we really see the applied value of anthropology, qualitative research in our case, how it can contribute to solving real-life sustainability challenges of our world. So thank you very much. And oh yeah, sorry, I didn't explain. This is at the Faculty of Computer Sciences of University of Ljubljana. And if you can see from, if you look at it from far away, there's an image of Marilyn Monroe, of course. But when you go deep into it, you see that it's made of photos of different people. And these are the people that actually made the whole picture. So it's always about the people when you zoom in. This is my conclusion. Okay, sorry. Once again.
Thank you very much, Gregor. It's actually tickled me, this question of how to make the solutions that we develop actually implementable by the people, by their own will, so without being forced. This is very important. So we have to motivate them in the right way. We have to find a way for them to feel as a part of the community that's implementing some decision, to be part of the decision-making of this decision, and then also having some say about whether this fits their preferences, but more importantly, their needs. And we talk about the needs. So this is where I think it's so important that as myself as a hardcore engineer, when I'm talking to my colleagues who come from completely different side, and they tell me, what you see, this is more qualitative, and I can see this qualitative research, these qualitative findings bring so much more insight that helps us bridge some gaps or bridge some walls that we couldn't go past then before. I would like to ask the audience if any questions, please. Do we have another microphone over here? Yes, it's over there.
I can also speak up. No, I have a question. Thank you very much. This is a very interesting, exciting project. I ask myself, I'm from Venice, so I'm a new member, and I see there are a lot of activities which have a short-term effect, which is very nice for, let's say, a relatively small group of students. So I was wondering, do you have ideas how to make this course or these offerings enter in the regular curriculum so that we have long-term, long-living effects? Because I think this is what we are aiming at, especially sustainability is something that you think for a goal in the long term. Are you planning to repeat these activities? Is there a plan B out of an evaluation of the things that went well with this project, how it can then be extended? So I was just wondering whether you have any ideas or about this question, or whether you find it even relevant.
It's a wonderful question for $1 million. Well, I totally agree, and of course, our wish or desire is that this becomes like a regular course at the University of Ljubljana, so something which is could be outside of faculties, connecting all the faculties, like working on real-life sustainability challenges, although this is administratively, it's a bit, yeah, challenging to establish. So what we try to do, at least what we could do at the moment, is really asking for funds or applying for funds for projects that would present a continuation, and we also present it in this kind of way. So when we apply, it's very, I mean, it's explained that it is a continuation of existing activities, but with adding additional components that upgrade what has been done. So this is what we are currently doing, but I mean, your question hits the probably something that we are all struggling with. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that some change is happening, but it's still on an individual level. So it's pretty much up to a particular teacher, professor, who then takes this up and kind of makes it part of his or her own program or approach. Perhaps also some changes happening on department level, because they see that this works and can be continued to an extent, maybe not to such an extent, because we really, there's a lot of effort needed to bring together all these external lecturers, stakeholders, kind of work with them continuously. So this is something that is supported by project and would probably be difficult if it was only to one professor to organize it all. But some elements are being integrated, I think. Of course, yeah, the big question is how to make it something that is lasting on university level.
I would like to also pick up on this question and tie back to what Leila said, and that is, we've had the current state of the art in teaching based on the environment that used to be there and it worked. And now the environment is changing. So now we need to be able to do something differently, because otherwise we hear from the industry, the students don't have the right skills. And we've been hearing this for a long time. We're going into new ways with this microcredit certification. We're going into new ways of getting this faster change, faster pace of getting new knowledge and new types of courses. Also, this La Belle Duc is one way that helps from maybe, I would say, more top-down, because it's certification of already grown-up programs. But here we're growing bottom-up, smaller programs through microcredits, where we give to the companies that need this in a changed environment, new knowledge and reskilling, upskilling, and new students with new knowledge. So this is where I think we just need to ride the wave and not think about, whoa, do we have the right kind of boat? We'll construct the boat as Kon-Tiki did and count the 13th wave and cross it. Or was it the 11th wave, I think? Any other question? Thank you. Any other question? Okay, so you're back.
Hi, my name is Mevan. I'm from the University of Warwick. Thank you very much for the presentation. My background is also coming from working for a very large mobility company that was competing with Uber and Uber Eats. So I really like the fact that it's kind of, you know, the people-centered approach is being kind of realized now as an academic principle, because I'd actually argue that in the private sector, you have to be people-centered. You don't have a choice, because those are your consumers. So if you're not people-centered enough, where people are not just expressing their views, but ready to part with money, you automatically lose out and you don't become a successful business. So my question is more as a kind of a thought exploration, but with your connection to the private sector, I know that you mentioned that you're working with some of them. How do you see that either growing to be a much more closer relationship, or is that still very much a challenge? Because as someone having come from the private sector, I realize that sometimes there is this bridge and this kind of misunderstanding. We're both doing the same thing. In fact, private sector does much more deeper research through beta groups, through large kind of data scaling. But for some reason, academia thinks that we don't do enough research. And vice versa. Private sector thinks academia doesn't know what they're talking about. So any thoughts around that? Because this is also the area I work at Warwick Innovation District, which is the outward-facing arm of the university, working with the startups and SMEs in the West Midlands region of UK.
I can start. No, I totally agree. And the people project that I mentioned at the very beginning was actually trying to, on one hand side, bring closer to the industry sector how anthropology, but not just anthropology, also social sciences and humanities in general, can be valuable for them. But the other hand side, which is I think also very important, is also teach students of humanities and social sciences how they can express their added value to the society, towards the industry, and so on. Because they're also not aware how they can contribute in an applied way, or they're not thought in that kind of way. So there was like, there are always two sides of the same coin. And yeah, when we try to, for instance, when we go to our industry partners, or I mean, it could be in projects, or it could be also in general, there are like different strategies, how we firstly approach them with our methodology from the dark side, as, okay, Andrei didn't say it from, he said from the other side, and then Sarah told me we're from the dark side, probably, yeah. But joke, it's, it's how to trigger the attention, or how to get their first attention, yeah. So we mainly try to present our good practice case studies from other projects, from previous projects that happened together with the insights or the results that were developed. And what I mentioned also before, it's always good to have ambassadors that are from the other side. So if you have ambassadors from the industry side or from the engineering side that somehow preach about your methodology, it's also always, yeah, like good to have on your as your strategy how to get this first attention. Something else?
Yeah, maybe just a footnote that I wouldn't support universities becoming entirely business-like or purely entrepreneurial. I don't think there is a true reason to do that. But in our experience, it's important that at least some of the subjects that are taught at universities are oriented towards this kind of problem-based approach. Problems can be stemming from society, from a city, or from a concrete business case like we had in some of the projects. So especially in social sciences and humanities and some other fields as well, the students just don't get that opportunity. And they then naturally lack those skills that are needed of them when they enter the workforce. But we can't, of course, expect them all to stay in academia or in research. There's just no room. So there is this need for some of the courses to be oriented in this way. But I'm not very supportive of entrepreneurializing universities.
Yeah. Or maybe also the questions that students or teachers are asking, you know, it's always about theoretical sound and especially ethical research, which I think is very important, you know. So again, two sides of the same coin, which is not just, you know, new business ventures and so on. No, it's about sustainability, about, you know, solving our planet, if that doesn't sound too cliche. I think that we will have to slowly...
Yeah, I didn't have a question. I just had a comment. Like, I just wanted to tie myself to your words. But that's the point of it. It's not the point of this project is not to just change the whole university just in project. The point of this project is to have outreach big enough and different enough, so you start having connections with the outer world in the sense that you didn't have before. So then there's this spillover of knowledge in and out that makes us also more vital than life, but that makes also the entrepreneurial side think about, there are some limits to my activities. There are going to be some impediments that maybe university can actually tell me about before I hit the wall, but I can tell them also that there are walls that they haven't considered. That's what it is about. And without these projects, we don't get to cooperate much. So that's why we kind of need them. I figured out in the last 5 years that I actually need them to get this flowing, the questions and answers back and forward.
And this is why I always say that students are not consultants. So it's not like hiring a workforce and saying, look, this is our problem, now go away and solve it. No, they should be co-creators of the very first step, also when it comes to framing the problem. So that's the main difference. Yeah.
Yeah, in the end, it's a learning process, not a consultancy. So, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I think we have to leave.
I would, just final comment. Then we'll have to close down.
I also wanted to thank you for the explication of this approach, and I hope that this approach will be put in place in more and more fields of knowledge. But on the other side, I was stunned when I heard a word that is like daily migrant. And I don't know if there is a political reason to call them daily migrants instead of the common word commuters.
Yeah, yeah, it's a translation from Slovenian. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, daily commuters.
Yeah.
I also was a bit.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very politically incorrect. Apologies for that.
But still, the number is very high. It's 45% of the total population of Ljubljana. Okay, so with that, I would like to thank you. We need to go out because of the organization reasons, but I would like to thank you for coming here, for your interest and your support. And I would like to thank Lila and Terena for coming here, enriching our session, and enabling us to learn something new. Thank you very much. And thank you. Take care.